Chapter 8, Political Parties. You notice the elephant and, of course, the donkey, the symbol of the Republican Party and the symbol of the Democratic Party, the two dominant parties in the United States. The history of how they came into being is interesting, but we won't spend time on it. It's just amazing that it's stayed all these years rather. All right, first slide. In the introduction to the author of chapter 8, the authors of your text noted while they were attending a Broadway play known as Hamilton, which is about the founding of the United States, that the crowd enthusiastically applauded to the characters of Hamilton and Lafayette when they sang "Immigrants, We Get the Job Done." So Lafayette was a French immigrant. And so here's this liberal crowd going crazy, as it were, when they're singing, when the two characters, Hamilton and Lafayette, sing "We Get the Job Done." At the same time, the authors note, Trump, while speaking at rallies, got some of his best applause when he talked about deporting illegal immigrants, building a wall on our southern border, and ending what is birthright citizenship. So you see, with these two main political parties, recently there's just been this great divide, and this is only one of the issues. Immigration has only been one of the issues with which they are divided on. This wide gap between the parties illustrates this phenomenon of party polarization. Now, one of the advantages and one of the ironies of this party polarization is that it makes it easier for the voters to distinguish between Democrats and Republicans. It used to be in 1968, a guy by the name of George Wallace said, when he ran for president, he said there's not a dime's worth of difference between the Democrat and Republican parties. And at the time, it was really true. There really wasn't much difference. In fact, if you listen to speeches that Robert F. Kennedy gave, he sounds more Republican in many ways today, what Republicans believe, than what Democrats believe. He sounds more like a Republican. And so Wallace was right. There really wasn't a dime's worth of difference. Today, there certainly is, but that difference has led to polarization. On the negative side of that issue, when we are so polarized, there's substantially less room to find middle ground. And that's why not only the parties are polarized, but the American electorate is polarized as well. So what is the meaning of party? What is that? So the alternating control and influence between the two major parties is one of the most important elements in American politics. Without this party competition for control of public office, there really wouldn't be a choice or a democracy. So this is an interesting way that your text describes this. And they're right. I had never thought about it from this perspective. But without that difference in opinion, without that alternating control between the Democrats and Republicans in holding office, we really wouldn't have a choice. So that is a very interesting perspective. It doesn't mean that everything about that is good. This polarization and the further we get apart from each other is having its own set of negative consequences. When you look at the definitions of political party, almost all those definitions have one commonality, and that is parties try to win elections to hold public office. That's what they do. So when we looked at interest groups, they try to influence policy, but they don't try to win elections. So parties try to win elections to hold public policy. An economist by the name of Anthony Downs defined a political party as a team of people seeking to control the government apparatus by gaining office in a duly contested election. That is what is going on. All right, this is the Downs model there. So, political scientists have referred to political parties under three heads. So, the three-headed political giants, and that is the party in the electorate, the party as an organization, and the party in government. So, we'll take a look at each one of these and delve into it a little more. So, the party in the electorate. So, in Europe, in European political parties, you've got to pay dues, you have membership cards, you attend meetings, and being a member of a party is a real commitment. In the United States, to be a member of a party, you only have to claim that you are a member of a party. So you probably, well, maybe you guys haven't, maybe you're too young, but not too long ago, when somebody got accused of being a communist, somebody would say about them, oh, they're a card-carrying member of the Communist Party. So here you can see a booklet that identifies somebody that they are a member of this political party. So in America, there is none of that. We just simply claim we are a Republican, or we're a Democrat, or we're an independent. And that is enough. We don't have to go to meetings. We don't have to pay dues. We just tend to identify with them more and claim to be a member. So that's the party in the electorate. There's also the party as an organization. This is the formal structure of the political party that sets the rules for party operations, pursues electoral victories. They try to win elections, nominate candidates to run, and then they keep the party running between elections. So there is a national staff, and that national staff has a full-time staff. It has rules and bylaws, and it has budgets. They get money. Money is given. They solicit money, and they use that money to try and further the interest of the party in having individuals win elections and hold office. There are also state-level leaders, county chairpersons, precinct leaders, and a national committee. These are the people who keep the party running between elections and make its rules. So all of these people. So once somebody's in office, the party seems to revolve around the office holders. But in between, this organization of the party right here is really what keeps it going. This is the portion of the party that looks for candidates to run for office, that looks for districts that might be susceptible to be taken over. For instance, a democratically controlled district that might be susceptible to be taken over by the Republicans, or vice versa. These are the individuals. This organization is the organization that does that. Then there's the party in government, which consists of the elected officials who call themselves Republicans or Democrats. They don't all agree on policy. As you can see, if you've been watching politics here in 2023 and 2024, you see the Speaker of the House was ousted by his own party. Mike Johnson, the new Speaker of the House, because of the bill he passed, which would give more aid to Ukraine, members of his own party are threatening to oust him as well, and their margin is so narrow that they may not be able to come up with another speaker and may hand it over to the Democrats if you get some defection from the Republicans and some supporting the Democrats. So it's a big deal, this party in government, and it's also a big deal that they don't always agree. Sometimes they have to try and convince their own members into voting for their policies, where in European countries, that is not an issue. Parties toe the line just with what the leaders want. That is because the United States is a representative system. Let me fix this right here. It's a representative system. It's not a system where the party controls everything. In a representative system, you have districts that represent individuals, and the office holders are beholden to the voters and not to the party leaders. So in a U.S. representative system, it is not uncommon for members of parties to put their district's interest or personal principle or their own ambition above the loyalty to party leaders. Now, having said that, party leaders are the main spokesman for their party. So you look at Donald Trump right now in 2024, he is the party's nominee. He was the last individual for the Republicans who's president. The party really revolves around him. From the National Party really revolves around him because he's won the election. He was the president before. No one has risen to, in a sense, challenge him effectively, and so he is the guy. He personifies the party to those millions of Americans who also hold that same party ID. He is the one, along with the members of Congress, who's got to translate those promises into policy. And if the party's going to move anything, that's the way it's going to go. Now, despite what George Wallace said, there really is a difference, at least today, between the Democratic and Republican parties. And remember, that was 1968 that he said that. So today, there is certainly a difference between Democrats and Republicans. So check out these issues here. Here is a number of issues that the Republicans and the Democrats are just polar opposites on. Same-sex marriage, Republicans against, Democrats for. And the list just goes down and down like that in every which way. Balanced budget, Democrats for, Republicans for, Democrats against. Obamacare, Republicans against, Democrats for. And it's just like that. So the task of the parties, what is it that parties do? Well, they nominate candidates, they run campaigns, they give voters cues. That's a big deal. So when you hear that somebody is a Democrat as opposed to Republican, you know on these issues that this is likely how that candidate thinks. So that label, whether it's Republican or a Democrat, tells an individual a lot about that candidate. Parties also articulate policies and they coordinate policy making. So those are big deals, and it gives us a lot of information to know whether or not somebody is a Republican or a Democrat. Parties, voters, and policy. Now, this is the Downs model. This is what Anthony Downs says about parties. He says that they compete with one another, at least in theory. At least in theory. What do they compete for? They compete for voter support, and its products or its candidates or its policies. So this is a rational choice theory. Anthony Downs' rational choice theory with political parties. And what is that doing? It is attempting to explain political processes and outcomes as consequences of purposive behavior. In other words, it's logical. Political actors are assumed to have goals and to pursue those goals sensibly and efficiently. In other words, logically. It's rational. They make rational decisions. Okay, so Downs argues that voters want to maximize the chance that policies they favor will be adopted by the government and the parties that they want to win office, okay? To win the office, the wise party selects policies that are widely favored. The party that figures out what the voters want more accurately should be more successful. And so, according to Downs, the successful parties rarely stray too far from middle ground. So now going back to the very first slide that we had any substance on, which is this one, with respect to immigration. So here there's it's not that there's a disconnect in the Downs model, but it certainly shows how political parties and the American electorate, have become more and more polarized. Because there's just this divergence between them, particularly here when you look at these issues as well. All right, so that's the rational choice, the Anthony Downs, the Downs model rational choice theory. All right, moving on. Parties position themselves near the center. So this is what Downs is talking about. So you can see here on this chart, you can see that, so this portion, this graph, this is where most Americans put themselves. They put themselves right here in the middle. Now you see some people off to the left and you see some people off to the right. Okay, this is where most independents are, right here. Yeah, there's some independents to the left and there's some independents to the right, but that's where they are. Now the Democratic Party, you see a big group of Democrats over here, but you see a lot of Democrats here in the middle. So the party that's going to, and the same with Republicans. Whoop, let me go back there. I had to slide down to see that. Let's go right here. I can't go up too far. It'll disappear. So here are the Republicans. You can see the Republicans by and large are over here, but there's still a big group of them in the middle. So in order to win an election, you've got to keep your base, but if you don't appeal to the middle, if you don't appeal to the center of the American electorate, you will never win. That is just not going to happen. You've got to be able to appeal to your base to win, and to the center. So this is a chart that I've been keeping for a number of years, in which I ask students to identify themselves based on their political ideology by asking them a number of questions. And as you can see here, it has the same kind of dynamic as this chart, meaning most people are in the center. So when you look at this over here to the left, which would be liberal or Democrat, and to the right, conservative or Republican, you see it has gone it's way down compared to the middle. So only a half a point on center, which is 4, you see right here, and then a half point over here, you see right here. You see that most people are here. Now, it's not to suggest that there aren't any here. So on this, the individuals I surveyed, there were certainly, one other point here. This is the male. The top is the male. The bottom is the female. So you can see on the bottom, you can see there's more people left to the left in the 5 range than there is with males, which makes sense because males tend to be more conservative, which you see over here, and females tend to be more liberal. So in order to win the primary, now who votes in the primaries? Anybody can vote in the primary if they're registered, but who votes tends to be, on the Democratic side, the people off to the left. And on the Republican side, it tends to be the people off to the right. This is why we tend to get more liberal candidates on the Democratic side and more conservative candidates on the Republican side, because this is who's voting, and they're voting for somebody who is consistent with their own ideology. And so, but then in the general election, everybody tends to vote. This is why you've got to appeal to the moderates. If you don't appeal to the moderates after having won the primary election, in the general election, you will never win, because it's those moderates in the general election who are going to decide. So candidates have to move to the ideological center to attract that moderate vote. All right, I hope that makes sense. All right, the party in the electorate. What do the Democrats and Republicans stand for? What is their image? And that image helps to shape the party identification. Now, that is important because people routinely vote for candidates from the party they identify with. In other words, if I am Republican, I am rarely, if ever, going to vote for a candidate from the opposing party. If I am a Democrat, I am rarely, if ever, going to vote for a member of the Republican Party. That's just how it is. So in 1964, individuals who identified as Democrats were twice as numerous than Republicans were. Let me fix that. So today, 40% of the electorate identify as independents. So who switched their allegiance between Democrats and Republican Party? So these independents will vote either Democrat or Republican because there is no viable independent candidate. So who are they going to vote for? Who are this 40% of the electorate going to vote for? Are they going to vote for Republicans or are they going to vote for Democrats? Well, they flip-flop back and forth. And it's whoever appeals to them. They're going to be right here. Independents, by and large, are going to be right here. And they're going to vote for the person who can attract them for whatever reason. Now, Democrats outnumber Republicans by today only a little more than 10%. That used to not be the case. So if you look at this chart, so you see way back here in 1952, Democrats are the blue. They identified about 50% of the electorate identified as Democrats. Republicans, only about less than 30%, 28% identified as Republicans. That stayed fairly consistent, and that's about today where it's at. But Democrats have gone way, way down. And it is the green, the independents, who have gone way, way up. This is why you have that dynamic. You've got to be able to reach out. If you're president of the United States or a senator or whatever, if you cannot reach out and grab that middle, you will never win office because it's the independents that in the general election you've got to appeal to. All right, independents. Independents, what do they think? There's a lot of people who see there's some greater social desirability of calling themselves independents. They want to give the persona that they're independent thinkers, that they're not told, as it were, what to do. They don't want to be locked down by party line. They see themselves as being independent, as being positive and constructive instead of engaging in this bickering and gridlock that it seems so common between the Democrat and the Republican parties. Now, the younger individuals in our society have always had this tendency to be more independent than older people, and never more so than now. So in 2016, a survey revealed that 57% of people between the ages of 18 and 24 identified themselves, as far as political parties were concerned, as independents. Independents more likely to vote for third-party candidate. Okay, third-party candidates rarely win, and so again, it goes back to that dynamic. Which major political party is going to pull those independents to get those independents to vote for him or her? That is what's going on there. All right, so some independents with respect. So some independents lean Democrat and others Republican. So here we are, 57. So if you look at this chart, 18 through 24-year-olds, it's typical 18 through 24-year-old, 25% of them see themselves as Democrat, 18 as Republican, 57%. So by and large, the vast majority see themselves as independent. And you can see here that's going to go down with age. So today, Democrats 65 and older, 38% are Democrat, 29% are Republicans, and 33% independent. So as an individual gets older in the United States, they tend to break off into parties, and you, as it were, see their true colors, ideologically speaking. Another thing that is important about independents, they are much more likely to engage in ticket split voting. So ticket splitting is this idea that you vote for one candidate. Let me get this out of here. I don't know what I'd say. Okay, there we go. You vote for one candidate for one office who happens to be a Democrat, and you vote for a candidate for another office of another party. So, for instance, you would vote for, if you voted for Biden for president, you might vote for a member, an individual of the Republican Party for a senator from your state. So independents are much more likely to engage in that practice of ticket splitting voting, which again impacts the system in the United States and the government, where we're going to get more of this gridlock because we have one party controlling one branch of the government, another party controlling the other. All right, we'll stop right there with this video for political parties, and we'll pick up on this slide for the next video. So there'll be 2 videos for political parties.